Hello again, welcome back to Jerez and to the testing notebook for day 3 of this first test in the 2015 season. Now tell me, does that look like a man who's worried about his team? Let's do McLaren Honda first, shall we? And that's the racing director Eric Boulier. They were last again, 8th position, even though they weren't going for times, but they were going for laps, and they didn't really get either of them. They got 32 laps, quickest time with a 35.5. Now they had solved their sensor problems overnight. I'm sure he finds it odd when I'm talking about his team and he just walks past. Anyway, it's too much gentlemen's come and hit me or something like that. But then they had to take the car apart. They had to take the gearbox off, they had to take the engine off. Eventually they found the problems. They fixed it. It was ready to go. Then they went out. The track was wet. The track was pretty much damp all day. But they were on inters. Alonso struggled for grip. The engine sounded pretty much on song, but they were just getting it sorted. Then he went to slicks, and it was all going very well. But then the car overheated. There was a leak in the coolant system. There was a water leak in the cooling system. Alonso noticed it in the car because on this newfangled steering wheel that they've got, there's a water temperature and water pressure readout. And Alonso noticed that it was going through the roof. And he stopped the car, brought it back on the outlap, and they've now had to remove the engine to check whether there's any damage. So you can see that chap in there, presumably working on, well, something hopefully to do with maybe the water system or cooling system. And in here you can only hear the sounds of motivational music going, but they've certainly got a lot of work to do if they're going to get another one of these, and certainly another one of these with the great Honda Turbo. There we go, with all these days. But I like these things. It's like a nice bit of motivation for everybody, remembering the glory years. But glory years won't mean anything unless they get everything together. So it was a positive day, which turned into a slightly not so positive day. But I think there was progress made. Fernando Alonso tweeted that he was a big step forward, he said, and he wasn't being sarcastic. Jenson Button's in the car tomorrow, so that's it for Fernando. He is off. And we will see. Ron has also gone. He did one day here, and then he went back on his Greys registered. His plane is registered Greys back to the UK. Just a quick one on engine tokens. There's going to be another row for whether Honda want the same sort of engine improvements and the tokens. I just love seeing the logo, JD, don't you? Still around the place on that engine box. Whether they've been given as kind of a compromise, an average of the engine improvements that they can make during the season, an average what everybody else uses. But they want now for that to be a level playing field, and they want to be able to make as many changes to their engine as they want, the maximum number of tokens that they want. That's an argument that's carrying on at the moment, so we'll see what happens there. Now, shall we talk Ferrari? And shall we talk, do you want to follow me through here, JD, when we see what's going on at the back of the garage? There's a little gap in there, and Kimi Räikkönen was in the car today, but we have a new name. Robin Räikkönen, that's Kimi's son. So congratulations, Kimi and Mintu Virtanen, his girlfriend. So we got Robin Räikkönen, we'll join Wilf Wolbioff, so we'll have lots of alliterative children in the paddock this year, so that'll be good. Congratulations to him. I asked Kimi about it actually. We just had a press conference with Kimi, and I said, have you come here, congratulations, have you come here to get some sleep? And I'll tell you what he said. He said, well, I haven't. It's normal for me, but it will be nice to get back and see him and spend time with him and Mintu. I don't quite know whether he meant it's normal for me not to get too much sleep in the evenings, because he's Kimi Räikkönen, what he likes doing. But I don't think he meant that. But it did sound like that. Maybe he said if he was saying it as a joke, then he was the most deadpan joke about him never getting any sleep, much sleep, that I've heard, and he delivered it absolutely beautifully. But I'll have to go back and check my tape. Anyway, some other things Kimi was saying. He did look tired, actually, as all of us been dads and mums around know only too well. He did look absolutely knackered. But Mintu is at home with Robin Räikkönen now. But a few other things I'll go through that he said. He said the team have done a good job over the winter. Positive first day. The car feels essentially good, but I couldn't tell much because the track was damp for most of the day. It's a reasonable starting point for us. The front end has improved, and hallelujah for that. because that, of course, was what he couldn't deal with last year, as well as all the other vices of last year's Ferrari. He didn't come out and say, it's a revelation. The front end is brilliant and it's going to transform my season. He said the front end has improved, but we've got something to work with. Over. It's not too bad. Talking about Sebastian Vettel, we're going to have a good relationship. We can push the team forward. About results, it's too early to talk about results, said Kimi. Someone asked him, how motivated are you for the new season? And he said, well, there's no difference from any other season. If I wasn't motivated, I wouldn't be here. And there's good atmosphere in the team, despite seemingly half of them being sacked over the winter. I haven't... And we're talking about a new contract. If I don't sign the new contract for next year, I don't sign it. It doesn't really make much difference. But if I'm happy and if everybody's happy, then I will. So I think he's talking about his option for next year. So that's going to be a storyline of the season, isn't it? But yeah, I think we've seen with a P2 of Kimi's time on a 21.7 and 92 laps. Yet again, a very positive day for Ferrari. So that is looking like all the changes I've been saying throughout this test that they've made are actually paying off. We'll talk a bit more about it in Development Corner tomorrow, but briefly, the pull rod front suspension seems to work a bit better because they've lowered the front brake calipers. They used to be sort of square on with the brake disc, but now they've moved the brake calipers underneath, which has lowered the centre of gravity even more, seems to help, and it works with the new Mercedes-style wishbones that they've got on the front of the car as well. He does have a new sort of style helmet. He's got some more sort of black colours on his helmet, which looks quite cool. So we'll just go through. That's Ferrari. Where are we? We are at Mercedes, and another great day. 151 laps for Nico Rosberg. Should we see, JD, if we can snoop? I know you like a little look in through the smoked glass. Some people having their dinner. No sign of Rosberg, who's probably in a briefing. But P3, 151 laps. There was a fuel pressure problem in the middle of the day, which meant that he wasn't able to do the whole day without stopping. But he said that was a good thing. You might have just heard him in Paddock Uncut saying that it's good that we want things to go wrong, so we can actually find out. But interesting thing, he said, now on to Barcelona, he said, which is much better. It might be a bit warmer there. It has been very cold here today. And he said it's a track that we race at, so we can actually have some sort of transferable data and some interesting stuff. Ah, there he is. No, he isn't. It's someone standing in. That's Martin, the driver. That's Toto and Paddy's driver. So it's probably not having his photos taken. He's probably using it as a stand-in. Anyway, something interesting Rosberg said the other day, and that's that he's changed how he breathes in the car. In fast corners, he used to hold his breath, and he was finding that he was getting a bit tired at the end of the race. But now he's learnt that he can breathe through fast corners, and just bringing you over here, JD, so don't run over by this forklift over here. He started breathing in fast corners, and that means that he's feeling, or on paper, it should be a little bit fresher, a little bit more fitness, even if it's just as a 1% towards the end of the race. So no more holding his breath for Nico Rosberg. Quick line about Lotus. Where are they? They are over here. P5 for Pastor Maldonado today, and a 22.7 with 96 laps. So that's a good going for Lotus, and there is Maldonado just going. You pop in there, JD, just go and see what he's saying. Well, I talk about the noise of these Mercedes engines, and it did seem when we were filming the Lotus yesterday to be quite noisy. We asked Andy Cowell about this, and if you've been watching our Paddock Uncut programs, you'll have noticed there is a sort of raspy, slightly louder noise this year. Andy Cowell, the head of Mercedes engines, said there's no technical reason why the engines should be louder this year. He thinks it's two things. Firstly, and he's noticed it seems louder here. Firstly, this circuit is in pretty much a sort of amphitheatre, so it does amplify the sound, especially compared to last year when they were so behind on energy development that actually you couldn't notice really that it did sound much quieter. Secondly, our hearing has improved over the winter when we haven't had to deal with engine noise, and it just sounds louder. And thirdly, he thought there were some improvements in terms of the combustion, etc. Tiny little technical things that might have meant that it sounds louder, but there's no other real reason than that. Okay, we've done Lotus, done Mercedes. Who's next? Red Bull. Let's move on. They had an engine failure today, which wasn't good, obviously. P7 for Daniel Ricciardo. You would have already heard his interview with Craig, hopefully. 48 laps with a 23.9. But further discussions when it was looking quite good between Renault and there's Remy Taffin, all the Renault guys actually coming out. It hasn't been a great day for them. When it was all looking quite good on the Renault side with all the improvements they've made over the winter, and then it goes and conks out when they really needed to get some laps on it. But never mind, I suppose. Kvyat tries to redeem himself in the Red Bull RB11 tomorrow, so that will be interesting to see that. Toro Rosso, Carlos Sainz Jr. He doesn't like to be called Carlos Sainz Jr. or Carlos Jr., so I'm going to call him Carlito, which I think means little Carlos, but I'm told that he prefers that. He was P6 today, 136 laps. Wow! So good laps from Toro Rosso, and it might not handle brilliantly watching it out on track, but it's certainly got a bit of lick of reliability to it. So well done to them. We'll see how he goes, Carlos Sainz. He did look like he was sort of close to having an accident at all times out there. It's partly the car, partly him learning, but we'll see how he goes against Max Verstappen. It'll be an interesting one to watch. P1 for Felipe Nasr, and he's down here at Sauber, but we might as well walk around. And 108 laps for Felipe Nasr. And I've had a good look at this Sauber, and I really like it. It just looks like it's sensible. You know, it looks like it's well engineered, it looks like it's well built, it looks like a simple car, and with that, especially at the back end, and with the improvements on the brake-by-wire, and the improvements on the engine, and the ERS and everything from Ferrari, I think they're going to have a much better season, which is really good for them. And finally, Williams, Massa, P4 on a 22.2. I spoke to him, he said everything's working well. I feel better at the end of the first test than I did with last year's car at the end of that first test, and got a good feeling from the car. Even though it was very cold, I still got the tyres to work very nicely. And I thought that was interesting. The Williams were able, as we've seen, to get good heat into their tyres, sometimes too good on occasions last year. That characteristic seems to have come over to this year's car. He was able to heat the tyres up very well. It's much better at the rear than it was last year. Didn't know it was a problem at the rear last year, although tyre overheating meant that it was quite loose on occasions. But he said we're still missing parts we want from Australia, so it means that it should get even better. The car should get even better for Australia. Right, so as we see the Williams briefing, Williams briefing going on in there. How do we sum up? Well, I guess it's been a day for a strong car brand. We've had Nasr first and Raikkonen second in Ferrari-powered cars. But if it was me, I'd still want to be in a Mercedes at the end of day 3 here in Jerez. Thanks very much for watching. Join us for Development Corner on the Notebook tomorrow. Bye-bye.